All right. Good evening, everyone. This is Marcia Noel, Assistant to the City Manager, and I will be facilitating our community conference call on COVID-19 this evening. Thanks for joining us again to all those who were here the first time, and welcome to anyone who is new. We appreciate the time that you are taking out of your quarantine to stay in the know on what your city is doing during this pandemic. Tonight, you will be hearing updates from members of our Emergency Operations Center and Public Safety. Our speakers for tonight are the City Manager, Jonathan Evans, who is serving as our EOC Commander, Interim Fire Chief John Curd, serving as our EOC Operations Chief, our Police Chief, Nathan Osgood, Interim Public Works Director, Terrence Bailey, serving as our EOC Planning Chief, and finally, you will hear from our Finance Director, Randy Sherman, serving as our EOC Finance Chief. All of these individuals have prepared updates they believe are important for you to know during this critical time. Now, before we begin, there are a few things I would like for you to know during this conference call. First, this conference call is being streamed on all social media accounts, such as Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. In addition, this call is scheduled for 1 hour. The first half will be for updates from individuals that I just mentioned. Afterwards, the remaining time will be left for questions and answers by the community. Please be advised that everyone on the call is currently muted with exception to the speakers, but instructions on how you can participate during the Q&A will be provided later. With that being said, I will go ahead and hand it off to our City Manager to begin.
Good evening, Riviera Beach, and thank you, Marcia. Certainly, we understand that we are operating under a new normal. The way of life and things that we have become accustomed to has drastically changed as we have been battling this pandemic and the coronavirus. It has impacted the world and basically every county in the state of Florida. As a result of this pandemic, we have taken some sweeping measures to ensure that the health, safety, and welfare of the community and the employees is preserved. We have moved all our employees to remote service. We are still offering multiple services via a digital platform, so your city hall is operating in a virtual capacity. Life safety services and critical staff is still on site, and they're adhering to all the recommendations that have been provided by the CDC, as well as other reputable government sources. Public safety services, police, fire, utility operations, we are considering all those public safety services remain uninterrupted and are consistent in their service delivery model. You will hear later on in the call from our operations section chief about the nature of the calls and how the calls have changed as a result of COVID-19 and some of the protective tactics that we are taking to ensure that the patient as well as our first responders are safe. The city of Riviera Beach was successful in securing a local testing center to test all the employees that exhibit symptoms associated with COVID-19. This is aside and apart from the testing that is being offered through the county resources and the state resources. We decided to go a step further and engage a firm that's here locally in Riviera Beach to assist us in facilitating testing for our employees. Our employees, all they have to do is reach out to the line that has been provided for them exclusively provide information to our intake specialists, and then they are forwarded the information to proceed forward with getting the test administered. It is local, and the results can be provided in 3 to 5 days. The reason that we did this is because from what we've heard as it relates to the testing at alternative sites, that there's a significant wait time, and we wanted to be able to provide immediate response to our personnel and be able to get them the treatment necessary to combat this horrific virus. Furthermore, we are also working with the Office of the Mayor to solidify a community-based testing site. This particular endeavor is in its early stages, and we can anticipate that it will come to fruition in the next 3 to 7 days. We are working diligently with a medical provider and a vendor to ensure that there is no cost as it relates to the testing center. We are looking to make sure that there is adequate resources and follow-up care that is provided after that site is open. Additionally, staff has created a community recovery plan that will be shared with the City Council at their regular meeting on April 15th. The areas of focus are going to be health and human services, public safety, hospitality, tourism, and marine industries, small business, medium business assistance, fast-track permitting, both business and residential, and then working with our clergy and faith-based community. These categories will be assigned to each one of the elected officials, and they will spearhead the efforts as it relates to assisting in all those capacities as we look for the recovery that the city of Riviera Beach will undertake after we get through this pandemic. We are thinking ahead. We are utilizing all resources at our disposal to ensure that the residents, our visitors, and our business community is provided assistance so we can move through this. But everything that you are hearing from the CDC, as well as the federal government, state government, county government, and the city of Riviera Beach, is primarily focused on your health, safety, and welfare, and making sure we meet those basic necessities. That's why we have partnered with Feeding South Florida. There will be a food distribution site that will be established at Wells Recreation Center for Friday, April 10th, which is tomorrow, from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. It will be until supplies last. From information that I've heard from other municipal managers that have utilized Feeding South Florida, in most cases, they get anywhere between 1,500 to 3,000 people that line up to be able to receive those goods from Feeding South Florida. What they are asking for you to do is you will pull up, you will open your trunk, they will place the goods in the trunk, close the trunk for you, and you are to drive away. That is to ensure that they're adhering to the social distancing guidelines and making sure that their volunteers, as well as the public, stays clear of any potential exposure. One of the things that we're also looking to do that you will see happen within the next 48 hours, the city of Riviera Beach will be following suit behind Delray and Boca Raton, recommending that the public wear some type of mask or face covering when they are out in the public. This is best practice. This is in the abundance of caution. We have seen the Surgeon General even communicate how easy it is to make a mask at home. Some of our local vendors are looking to distribute masks that individuals can wear as well. So there are people that are out there to assist in facilitating that if you are interested in obtaining those from those sources. But we are encouraging you in the abundance of caution to wear masks when you are out in the public. Additionally, we've seen some movement based on the mortality rates associated with some of the techniques that have been provided by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, that originally the projected amount of deaths that were going to be realized in this country was well over 200,000. The model has changed, and the projection is about 60,000. Still a large number of Americans will be impacted fatally as a result of this pandemic, but the modeling has changed as a result of the techniques that have been deployed and some of the actions that have happened at the federal, state, and local levels. So in order for us to see that curve flatten, we need to continue to take the steps and the precautions that have been communicated. We want to make sure that we are avoiding gatherings of 10 or more people, that we are washing our hands vigorously and repeatedly for at least 20 seconds, that we're understanding the importance of social distancing. And the other side of it, too, we want you to be conscientious excuse me, about your mental health. We want to ensure that you are communicating with family, even though you may be self-quarantining or isolated or what have you. Please make it a point to contact your friends, your family, your loved ones, certainly during this Easter weekend, because we want to make sure that your mental health is certainly up to par when it comes to the challenges associated with the new normal. We're asking you in all cases, if you can please stay at home. If you have to go out for some of those basic necessities, utilize a lot of other opportunities. There's apps that they can deliver your groceries. There's things that can be shipped to you. We know that the Postal Service and other shipping services is kind of slow as a result of the pandemic, but nonetheless, please think about those things, because every opportunity you have to go out is a potential opportunity for exposure. When you do come home, one of the things that we are encouraging folks to do is take your shoes off at the door. Even the clothes that you're wearing, spray those with alcohol, take those clothes and wash them immediately in warm water, etc. There's things that we just have to be conscientious of that we may have taken for granted in the past. The City of Riviera Beach will have its regularly scheduled City Council meeting on April 15th. This will be done in a digital platform. We will be utilizing the service GoToMeeting. We will be providing information as to how the public is to participate, and that will be furnished on our website as well as on our TV station, and information communicated on our social media platforms. Again, thank you so much for taking the time to listen in to the emergency command staff updates. These are very important updates, and it's a great way for you to hear firsthand on what your city staff is doing. We have individuals that are working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Your command staff is working at minimum 7 days a week and in various capacities. So there's always somebody that's tracking what's going on and being able to provide us real-time updates and information as it relates to this pandemic. At this particular moment, I will end my comments, and I will provide closing comments at the end of the conference call. Ms. Noel, I turn the line back over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. All right, so we're going to go ahead and allow for our other speakers to share their updates. We're going to go ahead and begin with our interim fire chief, John Kurd.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. My name is John Kurd, interim fire chief, and I want to start off by giving everybody the latest briefing from the Department of Health. Currently in the state of Florida, we have 16,826 cases, and of those 16,826 cases, we have 371 deaths associated with COVID-19. Here in Palm Beach County, we have 1,289 cases. We have currently a death toll of 75 individuals. As it relates to the city of Riviera Beach, as of 10 a.m. this morning, the Florida Department of Health has confirmed 9 cases within our municipal boundaries. I want to give a special thank you to Riviera Beach Fire Rescue personnel, the men and women of Riviera Beach who are out there on the front line. I can't thank them enough and express how proud I am of their efforts as they combat this pandemic. fire rescue, both fire and EMS stand ready to serve the community. While we have seen other call types go down, we have seen a significant number of COVID-related calls come into our dispatch center. We have a specialized COVID-19 response vehicle that is responding to all of those calls, and we are upstaffing personnel to ensure that the needs of the community are met. I also want to talk a little bit about the stay-at-home order and the social distancing. We have seen very positive effects from staying at home and social distancing. We want to continue to urge our community to adhere to the social distancing requirements, the staying home and staying safe, especially as we go into a holiday weekend where traditionally we would normally see large family gatherings and large church services. We caution you that this is a very critical time as we combat this pandemic, so please continue to adhere to those requirements. Continue to look for direction from the CDC, state, county, and city representatives, as those are your most reliable sources. Please ensure that you vet those sources and refrain from information that you're seeing on social media as it relates to COVID-19. We can't express enough the importance of continuous hand washing, hand sanitizing, social distancing, staying at home, and keeping your mouth and nose covered when in public. As Mr. Evans alluded to, we are urging our citizens to use cloth face coverings. We ask that you not use your N95 respirators if you don't have them, as we are trying to reserve those PPEs for our first responders who are out on the front lines. There are many different mechanisms for creating masks and using different types of facial coverings. You can go to CDC's website for additional information as it relates to that. We are continuing to partner with organizations on providing meals for the elderly in our community. We've been working with Red Cross, Meals on Wheels, Feeding South Florida, and Palm Beach County Senior Services to ensure that no one goes hungry during this pandemic and these difficult economic times. And if I may wrap up, I would like to also encourage virtual communications with your loved ones, especially those that may be elderly living within an ALF, a senior center, or simply at home self-isolating as we go through the holiday. There is a serious mental strain on individuals who are normally social by nature, who are self-isolating during these times, and whether it be FaceTime, Zoom, any of the other virtual communication platforms, we urge you to reach out to your family, have conversations with them, and let them know they are not alone in this. Riviera Beach stands ready for calls for service as we battle this pandemic together. And that concludes my report. I turn it over to you, Ms. Noel.
Thank you, Chief Kurz. We're going to go ahead and now turn it over to our Police Chief, Nathan Osgood.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Nathan Osgood, your police chief. Basically, the police department I hate to say it this way, but we're doing business as usual. Our police officers are very concerned with the safety of our police officers, but they're out there each and every day and every night for the community. They are wearing their PPE gear as instructed. Our support staff inside are wearing their PPE gear, masks and gloves, shields, as they have to deal with each other in close quarters. We currently, we had 6 total employees suspected, or should I say tested, for COVID-19. 3 came back negative and 3 are still pending. As we go through the police department, with people still coming to the police department to make a report, whatever, we do a screening process where we screen all of our employees and our guests who comes to the police department of COVID-19. So far, so good. No reports of COVID patients. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Chief Osgood. Next, we're going to turn it over to our Interim Public Works Director, Terrence Bailey.
All right, this is Terrence Bailey, your Public Works Director. Currently, our facilities team is continuing service to provide support and operations for the buildings that are occupied while we maintain a level of service. Our fleet department is also operational in support of public safety as they run up and down the streets. Currently, streets and grounds and stormwater are in reserve status and are not currently operating, but remain at the ready in the event that there's a situation needing their expertise and use. We ask the community to understand that this is not the time that we'll be cutting grass and trimming trees. In addition, the Solid Waste Authority has put in a request that all residents hold off on any tree and landscape trimming during the month of April, as they need to maintain critical services at the Solid Waste Authority. In the event there is a situation, Public Works stands ready to develop strike teams and send them out to specific incidents. Other than that, I return it to you, Marcia, and Public Works stands ready to serve the community.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. And finally, for our last speaker, our Finance Director, Randy Sherman.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Ms. Noel. Yes, this is Randy Sherman, the Finance Director for the city. The area that I'd actually like to discuss this evening is the utility bills. One of the early and first directives that we received from the city manager was that we would suspend all late fees. So we're currently not charging any late fees on delinquent bills. We also have suspended all turn-offs for delinquencies. And from the very onset, we also made sure that all water service was on. That's a task that we usually do during a hurricane with the stress of the pandemic and the added anxieties. We did not want anybody to worry about their water service. One thing that I will point out that I think is probably the most important thing and takeaway tonight is we continue to work our call center. Our phone number there is 845-4050. If you have any issues with water service, please call that. We have 3 people who are monitoring those lines, and we will, if we can't take the call live, we certainly will take a message and get back to you. We are continuing with our billing process. We're trying to keep that on schedule as much as possible. We are on a rotating basis. As the manager said, we're working remotely. Certain tasks do need to be handled in the office, and we're sending in no more than 3 people on any given day. And on Monday, the billing crew will be in to get out the most recent billing. We're also posting payments that are coming in, and we made some postings yesterday. We'll make a couple postings several days next week. So please be advised that when you receive your bill, it may not show your most recent payment, depending on the time of that payment. But again, we're not doing any turn-offs, and please trust that we will catch up on those postings as time comes, as employees come into the office. Certainly would encourage you to continue to make your payments. The utility district has about 120 days cash on hand, so we're in good fiscal condition in that regard. But what we don't want to do is have people get too far behind in their payments, making it difficult to catch up once this pandemic is behind us. And also let you know that we are processing closeouts if someone is finalizing their account. Again, if you need any information, it's 561-845-4050. And that finalizes my report, and back to you, Ms. Noel.
Thank you, Mr. Sherman. All right, so that concludes the updates from our speakers. Now we're entering into the question and answer portion for the community. At this time, anyone who has joined the call, who has a question on anything that was discussed or anything regarding COVID-19 or city operations, this is your opportunity to ask that question. To participate or to ask your question, you must electronically raise your hand by dialing *9. Once you've dialed *9, on my end, I will be able to unmute your line. You will hear a voice say that your line is unmuted and therefore you can speak. Once you've asked your question, I will then mute your line again. So with that being said, if there is anyone that is on the conference line that would like to ask a question, please dial *9. All right, so I do see a hand raised, so I will unmute you.
Hi, good evening. Thank you very much, everybody, for your services during this time. Did have a question regarding the stay-at-home orders. To my understanding, Palm Beach County's executive order for stay-at-home expires on April 10th, which, as you all know, is tomorrow. How does that affect the city of Riviera Beach, and is there any light you can shed on that at this time?
This is Jonathan, the city manager. I believe our city attorney is present on the call. Ms. Nguyen, if you are capable of taking that call.
Sure. Yeah. Yes, good evening. If we can come back to it, I'm looking up the executive order from the county, but I believe they extended it, but I'm just trying to make sure.
Okay, we'll come back to that question here momentarily.
Thank you. Is there anyone else with a question? Oh, I do see another line. I will unmute you. One moment.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. This is Bishop Masters. Am I unmuted? Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. First, I don't really have a question per se. I do want to commend Mr. Evans. I had an opportunity to work with him as mayor, and I tell you, there is no city manager close comparatively to Mr. Evans. He's 24 hours for the citizens. He's around the clock. He's hands-on. He's very competent and very dedicated. And I want to just, for people who may not know, because you didn't work with him as I did through the hurricane and other things, I was just blessed to have worked with him. I also want to compliment our mayor and our elected officials for doing all that they're doing, and the mayor for being engaged in the community. I do want to say that I heard the mention of the feeding. Tomorrow, I do want to extend that same type of concept to the public. We at New Macedonia on 748 West 9th Street, Riviera Beach, we have extended a take-home feeding every Sunday at 2 o'clock. People stay in their cars, and the meals are the same thing, are brought to their cars with people who are masked up and gloved up. And of course, we have mostly soul food menus every Sunday as long as we go through this. The other thing is, I do want to remind the police chief, and I'm sure he's probably seen it by now, that there is a curfew on the book that pertains to children, young people under 18, that they cannot be on the streets, period. Loitering, trespassing, hanging out on the street. So that curfew you may want to look at. And last but not least, as Mr. Evans said, there are vendors out there that are going to have distribute the masks or the gloves. Many churches now are being a part of that. I know we will be getting 1,000 masks that are washable, and after 10 times you can wash it and use it again. I just kind of wanted to give you an update, and I'm just so thankful to be a resident of the great city of Riviera Beach. Mr. Evans, my question is, are there any specific guidelines to the churches? I may have missed it for Sunday, Easter Sunday.
Mr. Mayor, former Mayor Masters, thank you for your remarks. We certainly appreciate it, and it was a pleasure to work alongside you as well. As it relates to the services that are occurring on Sunday, we're asking that the clergy community assist us in adhering to the recommendations and guidelines provided by the CDC. We know that people are going to congregate. We know that people are going to celebrate the Easter weekend, and we just want to do it in a safe manner. So we are asking that our religious community exercise good judgment in all circumstances and listen to the recommendations that are being provided by the CDC, because 80% of the individuals that are carrying this virus or will carry this virus are going to be asymptomatic. So if you have a situation where it is a church service, there's a potential for some contact. So we're asking, if you do have church service and you have people coming in, having them wash their hands, having them stay at least 6 feet away from each other, staggering them in pews. The religious community, you all have persevered through a lot and have been there to assist our community through a lot. So we just ask for you to be careful. And if there's anything that we can do on the city side to assist in facilitating a smooth process, we certainly want to do that. So we're just asking that the religious community just follow the recommendations and guidelines provided by the CDC and the Surgeon General.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. We do have another question, so I'm going to go ahead and unmute that individual's line.
Okay.
So in addition to, I guess, the question and follow-up on the executive order, part of the essential activities that would be considered as part of the stay-at-home order, fishing was mentioned as an essential activity as part of that order. And I was wondering, is fishing permitted as an essential activity from the beach during closure?
Okay. Ms. Nguyen, can you handle both of those? But I believe one specific to the fishing is more exclusively to commercial fishing operations that are providing goods and services to a market or a restaurant are permitted to operate during this particular executive order and the closures, but I would have to defer to the city attorney. Ms. Nguyen?
Yes, good evening. Fishing, commercial fishing is allowed. However, fishing and any access to the beaches are closed, so that would not be allowed. As it relates to the first question regarding the county stay-at-home order, the county's declaration of emergency expires on the 10th unless extended by the county, and we have every reason to believe that it will be extended for the 7-day period and extended thereafter as necessary, every 7 days.
Thank you. I think the same individual actually has another question. One moment.
So just to make it clear, when that executive order lifts, will that simultaneously reopen our beaches?
I can't tell you that without seeing it first. I would think that normally when the county lifts an executive order, it applies to everything. However, this is a unique situation, meaning the pandemic, and it may be lifted in stages, but I can't tell you that.
Okay, because you mentioned that all access to the beaches all beaches are closed, and I understand that from a municipality standpoint. But if for example you live in a condo on private beach access, that is still that's still closed. But you see people that are out there recreationally boating. The FWC hasn't provided any guidelines other than not to exceed 10 persons per vessel and to stay 50 feet away from the next vessel. I just think that we have such a widespread volume of area that people could be outside, very distant from one another, while practicing social media, and not cooped up inside a condominium complex that may be more limited as to the space where they're confined to. even on the premises where I reside in Riviera Beach, I noticed that people are downstairs, on the property, and they're not able to properly social distance. And, they have, we have access to the beach here, which would give us a lot more land to utilize for people to, spend their time during this, unfortunate event. So I think that should just be something that maybe the city, if you could, takes into consideration.
And certainly I can speak specific. This is Jonathan. I spoke with all the city managers on the matter specifically today. I am the secretary treasurer of the Palm Beach County City Managers Association, and we have a conference call every week. And a lot of managers in beach communities are dealing with the same circumstance about individuals calling with regards to access to the beach. And I would say about 96% of them have maintained the same position, accompanied with the stance of the county that all beaches are closed, public, private, etc., as well as beach accesses. We are looking at this on a regular basis. We are working with the county and looking at what can conceivably be done in a reasonable and safe fashion to look to bring normalcy back. But with the numbers continuously increasing and the counts continuously going up, the likelihood of that happening is some time away. But it's not something that we take lightly. It's something that we want to be able to restore elements back to normal as much as possible, because we know we live in a beautiful community and the beach is one of our greatest assets, and folks want to get out there. And so we're looking at it consistently, constantly. And I can tell you there's not a day that doesn't go by that I don't get at least, half a dozen emails or phone calls associated specifically with that issue. But we're looking at it, and it's something that we will consider and continuously consider and work with the county. We get briefed from the county every morning at 10 a.m. And then the police chiefs and fire chiefs all convene. And we're looking at this holistically. So,
sure, certainly can appreciate that. It's just a shame because from our place where we live, I look down at the beach and I see miles of openness, and it's nature at its finest. And there's no coronavirus on the ocean. It would just be nice to be able to get out, get some fresh air, some vitamin D. It may lift some people's spirits.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you. If there is anyone else with a question, as we do have some time left on the call, please feel free to dial *9. All right, I see a hand raised.
Hello.
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 Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
First of all, good evening. This is Miss Bram, okay? Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
I continuously just say thank you for your service. Mr. Evans, take care of yourself. Chief Kirk, take care of yourself. Chief Osgood, take care of yourself. And all the staff, Miss Jacob, and everybody that are doing their most utmost for this city. Take care of yourself. Sure, we may have been inconvenienced, but what would we rather have? Death or to be inconvenienced? This is something that no one could ever imagine that would ever happen. But since we are all in this time capsule together, thank you all for navigating us. And then I say sincerely, I am so glad that with my physician, yes, I took the test, and I'm glad whoever have serviced me, and I was negative. And I want to encourage the general population, which is African Americans, do not be afraid, because this has no boundaries, none whatsoever. So if you think that you're not feeling well, then do what is necessary to do. in order to protect yourself as well as the general population. I have a question from Chief Kurt. You made mention about that it was 9 cases in our city here today. Okay, I know about the HEPO law. Within our city boundaries, as you stated, I'm quite sure that these people have been informed. Are we as a city, especially the fire department or any necessary department, making sure that these people are quarantined? I understand about the HEPO law. See, I just put it out there. Miss Brown was not afraid to get tested, and I am negative. But those that are not negative, and you stated that it is 9 cases in our city, in our boundary. So we know right now that it is in our city, and it is critical for every resident, every managerial staff, every employee to do the things that the CDC is asking us to do. This is important not just for you, but it's important for others that are around you. So I would like Chief Kurt to expound on that. Chief Osgood also stated that it was a total of 6 negatives, 3 negatives in the police department, and 3 pending. So I wish them well. I wish the whole entire city to be well. And as Ms. Bram has said, do what's right. If we are inconvenienced, so be it, so be it. This is not the time. This is the time to lay away all sides of what we used to do. We will never be back to doing the things what we used to do. Yes, we love the beach. We love to go out in public. We love to gather. But this is not the time for it. Because the life that you save just might be your own. And I thank all of the entities that are working with this city to keep this city safe. And it is more than hunger. It has been stated that we have to wear a mask. Wear a mask. And we cannot get enough masks to serve this city in this city. So every vendor that you all can come across, do it for the people of this city here. Do it for yourself as well. So the inconvenience that has been imposed on us, you did not ask for this. You did not ask to do this. You are only following the guidelines that should be followed. And if those that do not desire to follow the guidelines, then it is consequences. Because consequences, we all are faced with these consequences of life and death. And it's time for we as people to realize this has no face or no boundary to it. So do the thing. So Chief Kurt, can you answer that question? And like I say, take care of yourself.
Thank you, Ms. Bram, and I appreciate. Thank you, Ms. Bram, and I appreciate your energy and passion as it relates to the well-being of our community. Unfortunately, when the Florida Department of Health tests an individual and that individual's results are positive, the testing center does notify the Department of Health. They do notify the individual, and they provide the individual with all of the information and documentation. But unfortunately, due to HIPAA laws, they do not provide us with the person's information, name, or address. So it would be virtually impossible unless there was some other mechanism for reporting that I'm not aware of at this time. Unfortunately, we have to trust in our community to do the right thing with the information that they've provided. And with your messaging, I think we can get that done.
Thank you. I see that we have another hand raised, so I'll go ahead and give that individual access. Just one moment.
Hello, yes. My name is Kim Span, and I have a 2-part question. The first is as it relates to the cadence of this call. I may have missed that, but I'm just looking for confirmation as to how frequently we could look forward to these. I think this is great. And then the second part of my question, it may be directed to the city manager, I'm not exactly sure, But as it relates to those updates, will we be able to incorporate just the confirmation that our frontline team members, that they have the proper PPE?
Okay. Yes, we do these calls every other week. Usually we have the call with the community, and then the following week we have another call that the elected officials are briefed, but the community can listen in to the briefing that's provided. So for all intent and purpose, we're doing this every week. We push out information on our social media daily, and we're looking at any opportunity we have to continue to keep the community attuned to what's going on. So with regards to the PPEs, we have been sourcing products from multiple areas throughout the state and actually throughout the globe. Our procurement department, our logistics section chief has been driving to Fort Lauderdale to pick up shipments from all over the world to be able to get us the tools necessary for our first responders. We've also had contributions from non-for-profit agencies, civic associations, community members to ensure that our first responders have the equipment necessary. So we believe that we have enough PPEs for our first responders for a significant amount of time, at least the next 45 to 60 days. But we're always looking for more because it all depends on how many interactions they have with a person of interest or a call. We're starting to see an increase in the number of calls, and every call that's coming in is showing symptoms of somebody that potentially could be exposed to the virus. So in the abundance of caution, we're making sure that we always keep a good stockpile of PPEs for our first responders. But we would look to do these calls pretty much on a frequent basis. Thursday seems to be the day that we've been doing it. So we will continue with briefing the elected officials next Thursday, and then we do another community conference call the following Thursday. But there's nothing that precludes the public from participating in any of those or listening in on the conference call with the elected officials, and obviously this Q&A session that we will have in subsequent weeks.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. And just for everyone else's information, we do put out notifications for these calls on social media and our website. So try to stay connected with us on those platforms as best you can, because we certainly do want to make sure that you stay informed. Now, we're going to go ahead, and if there's one last question, we will take it. Otherwise, I will then move forward to final remarks from our speakers. And again, you can dial *9 to ask a question. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move to final remarks. We'll go ahead and begin with our city manager, Jonathan Evans.
Again, thank you everyone for being on the call. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of adhering to the recommendations and the guidance that's being provided by the CDC. It's a matter of life and death, and it really gets down to that bare bones when you're talking about this particular virus. It is an enemy that we cannot see, and we have not combat something like this in our lifetime. And so how we respond and how we react during this pandemic will not only define us, but refine us as individuals in this community. We are looking ahead to brighter days. We are talking about the steps to re-energize the community and to jumpstart the local economy. We know that this is a major inconvenience for a lot of folks, and we know that a lot of us are going to feel the pain associated with this virus as it continues to impact our friends, family members, and loved ones. I just ask that you continue to stay home, adhere to the recommendations, and understand that your first responders and the medical professionals that you have in your community and your public safety officers are doing yeoman's work to ensure that you are safe. Regardless of what the circumstances is, when you call, we're going to show up, whether we have PPE or not, because that's the nature of the individuals that we have in this agency. And we're going to make sure that we do everything in our power to render the best standard of care when we interact with all our residents. We're going to look to address the opportunities to partner up with other entities to ensure that our seniors are receiving nutritionally balanced meals, that our at-risk community is also receiving the services that they need to continue to operate in this pandemic. But this is a new norm, and this is a challenge for us all. But I believe that we have the right people in place, and we're committed and focused to do the right thing, not the popular thing, and we'll get through this together. So Riviera Beach, rest assured that your staff is working tirelessly, and we look forward to better days, but it's going to take a little bit longer than we had hoped because this is a challenging battle, but we will prevail. Thank you all for spending time with us. And Ms. Noel, that concludes my comments, and I turn the microphone back over to you.
Thank you. And I'll allow time for the rest of our speakers to share anything that they would like to leave with the community. Chief Kurt, any final remarks?
No additional comments. I hope that everyone has a happy Easter, and please take care.
Chief Osgood?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ms. Marshall.
Yes. Do you have any final remarks to the community?
I do not. Just stay safe, please, and please be mindful of your social distancing and stay inside if you need to stay inside. Do not go out.
Thank you. Mr. Bailey?
No additional remarks. Thank you.
Thanks. And finally, Mr. Sherman.
I'll just repeat the phone number again. If you have any utility questions at all, it's 561-845-4050. Be safe.
Thank you. And with that, I would like to finally leave you all with this. As we said earlier, please stay connected to the city. We are trying our best to push out information to you on a daily basis through Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and the city's website. So if you're not already following the city, please do so as each day presents new information. We look forward to seeing you all again or hearing from you all again at our next community teleconference for April 23rd. So please look out for that information. Have a good night.